Hey, yo, welcome back to the Matt Brown Show, guys. We've got another cracking edition of the show planned for you guys. Today is a special day, the least of which because we're going to be celebrating someone's birthday. When was it? Yesterday? 16, alrighty, cool. So our guest today is none other than the infamous Jonathan Kohler. Welcome to the show, dude. Whoop, whoop. Fucking hell, guys. Okay, thanks, dude. So, Jono, thanks for being on the show, bro. It's been a long time coming. I feel like I keep running into you in Morningside Shopping Centre. It's like our thing.
100%. I need to eat. I don't really cook much at home. Neither does my wife. But hopefully she doesn't listen to this. So
yeah, I know. Male grooming is becoming quite popular, hey? Do you want to talk about that?
Look, I mean, the property market's a little bit tough at the moment, you know, so a little bit of threading on the eyebrows works wonders to get a property sold.
I think I saw you and your girlfriend there smashing champagne. I was like, damn, that's the high life.
Yeah, you know, I think having a manicure and a pedicure with my wife has become something that we do sort of every 2 weeks, you know, so I don't know if I should be proud or embarrassed to admit it that I haven't cut my own nails for about 10 years, I'd say.
And you can quote the Matt Brown Show on that.
Job creation right there.
Oh, yeah, that's hilarious. Well, look, I think it's important, dude. Male grooming, man. The whole world's changing, right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So let's dive into the meat and the potatoes, dude. So you've got a really amazing story. I think the headline here is that you run one of the biggest property management companies in the country, and we're going to explore how you got to that. But why don't you take us right back to 2004, I think it was, right?
That's correct.
When your journey began. So what transpired in 2004? How did you get the itch to go and shake up the property industry in South Africa?
Okay, so I think how it started was, if I go a little bit back, I actually hadn't even started university yet, and my dad was a CA, and we've got sort of a family filled with professionals. And he gave me the closed door speech to say, boy, you need to get a degree, etc., etc. So I went and got a general BCom. And shortly after that, he was like, you have to get a job. And you're sort of putting pressure on me to get my first job. My brother had been involved in property development and building golf courses and things like that. And I started working for Summercon Property Development. So I started selling their developments off plan. I worked for them for about a year and a half. It became very apparent in my first job, you know, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have my own business. And
why was that? Sorry to interrupt you.
I think it's difficult to explain, but I think you either know if you're an entrepreneur or you don't. And I remember looking at the CEO of Summercon and thinking, he's a really cool guy, and he started off in the sales team here exactly like I did. But I don't want to be the CEO. I want to be the owner of the business. I want to be the guy who actually started the business. I just sort of knew it. It was one of those things that you just know. And a similar way, I guess, a lion knows how to hunt. It's just like it's ingrained in them. When a thing runs away from it, it runs up to an ankle taps it. I guess it's the same sort of thing, you know, if I can put it like that.
Yeah. So most people, I'm going to ask that question, like, why did you start your own business? Because they were, quotes, unemployable. Was that kind of a bucket that you fell into?
I think before I started working, I definitely was unemployable. But when I started working, I sort of understood it really in day one, you know, that you needed to work hard and you needed to do the long hours and sort of be there. And I nearly got trapped into the sort of management role, you know, where the guy said, you're doing a really good job as a salesperson, you're staying the extra hours, would you like to be the sales manager of this business? And then I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then they give you that little bit of an incentive, you know, they want to pay you a little bit more, they want to give you a little bit more commission on your payments, you know, which is a good route to go, and it's definitely moving forward. But for me, it even kept me working at Summercon an extra maybe 6 months longer, where I should have just gone out and started my business. So I think for me it was just a case of seeing what work or what services I could provide for Summercon, who was my current employer, and that's pretty much how I started my business.
So fast forward 2007,
yeah,
and you're working out of your sister's garage, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So I didn't really have any offices at that time, and my sister was renovating her house, and we had sort of one double garage that we worked out of, and staff retention was obviously very, very difficult, and Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to incentivize the right type of people to come and work for you when you're working out of a garage. And
this is my floor. This is the single door where we leave and we come. We leave and we exit.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't understand why they couldn't see the future of the business, you know? Can't you see where we're going here?
Look how far we've come.
Haven't you seen the Facebook story? What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what great story doesn't have a garage involved? Like Mark Shuttleworth, Elon Musk, his first Google, Matt Brown show.
100%, so like all I really need to do now is actually start making money, you know, then we'll be okay.
Yeah, totally. So how old were you at that time?
I was about 24.
24, hey?
Yeah.
Yes. Alrighty, cool. So tell us more about that time. I mean, how did you go about building the perception that Landsdowne Properties was actually far bigger than it was, obviously, you just being you, running it from the garage?
Yeah, I think sort of faking it until you make it is really how I've done it. I mean, I can remember starting a sort of a sales and rentals business. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I sort of had an idea, you know, but I started in the sales and rental business, and you take absolutely everything. If a person gave you some stands to sell at the Vaal, you would take it. And if a person gave you a studio apartment to rent in Paulsdorf, you would take it, you know, just taking whatever you could. And I remember printing all of these boards, for sale and to let boards and properties wanted boards and sold boards. And I used to go, you could only put the boards up on the weekend. So I used to go out on a Thursday evening late at night. I used to wear a hoodie so no one would see it was actually me doing it. And I actually used to take my dad's old car and leave my car, you know, because people knew my car. And I used to go out and just hammer in boards.
Hang on. How did they know it was your car? Like, what car was that?
It was a M Coupe, like a Z4 M Coupe, and I sort of shudder to admit it, but it said Kohler GP on the plate. So yeah, you know,
That's hilarious.
I mean, I don't really think that the M Coupe would have loved the on-show board sort of in the boot, because it didn't really have a boot, you know, but people would definitely know, you know. So I put the hoodie on and I'd go and I'd hammer these boards out from Morningside, Browns and Paulsdorf, all of the northern suburbs. And then on the weekends, people would sort of ride around, and whether we had a place for sale, a place for rent, or whether we had sold a place or not, I'd put out every single board we had. And then when people came up to me and they said, geez, you know, your business is doing really well. I see your boards everywhere. We're like, yeah, we're doing well. We've got all these different agents. But meanwhile, I mean, it was me doing the selling, the renting, the calling, the payments, the everything out of my sister's garage with the first iBurst connector. You know, I think when it came out, I had a shocking reception there. It was almost like dial-up, but not quite. And yeah.
Please ring this bell, because that deserves a hustle ring. I'm sorry, bro. Yes. That's such a cool, legendary story, man.
Yeah.
Hectic. So, I mean, did that pay off in the end? I mean, can you recount people noticing these boards and going, hey, this Landsdowne property company is like, you know,
well, I think it's just about changing the perception in people's minds about what stage you're at. Because I think, you know, if people want to trust you to rent out their property or manage their body corporate, they want to have seen you, they want to know the brand, and you have to be sort of top of mind all the time. And I mean, similarly to what we do now, you know, I mean, we post on social media on the hour, every single hour. We post on
today.
Yeah. So I've got a person. I've got a person who's working for me full time, just doing the social media stuff. And when I say a person working full time, it's a person working in the office who I've given another job to do in the office. So it's not costing me anything. And we, you know, just to be top of mind all the time, because you'll be surprised. I mean, you can be the best man at a person's wedding, and you'll see that they've shared for example, a Pam Golding on-show thing to say, guys, my house is on the market. And I pick up the phone and I say, Brew, you know, why didn't you call me? And he's like, oh, do you sell houses? And I'm like, I've had my business for 12 years. Like, you know exactly what I do. I was your best man. And then he's like, oh, okay, cool. And then we get like a second bite at the cherry. So, yeah, you know, so I mean, I mean, I don't think it matters how many years you've been in business. You just need to be top of mind all the time, so that people can't not think of you when they want to do whatever your business is. So yeah, that's sort of a hard lesson I learned.
So even, how old are you now, if I may ask?
36.
Okay. So you look like you're 26, right? So
I think you.
It's all the male grooming, right?
Yeah. You see, it's worth it. What did I say? Well, my wife is 28.
Is she? Cradle snatcher.
There we go. Well, if I'm 26, she's 2 years older than me, right?
Yeah. We'll talk about it. By the way, congrats on the engagement, dude.
Thanks,
well
mate,
done, bro. Well done.
Thank you.
But I want to go back to when you're 24, 25, right? So I also had a baby face. It'll do, rosy cheeks are a fucking sin in the age perception department.
Yeah.
So now here you are hustling, you're putting all these boards out, you're just getting going, you're taking what you can get. Like, how did you get people to take you seriously back then? I mean, was it the way that you dress? Like, was it like what else over and above the boards were you doing to be taken seriously as a startup property disruptor in around 2007, 2008?
It's extremely difficult. I mean, even to be taken seriously by your friends who might not have started their own business. It's amazing where, they'll support you, or people will support you to a specific time until they have to take a risk on you. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it takes time and it takes years, I can remember one of the directors of SummerCon, I mean, every single year, because when I left, I said, listen, I'm starting my business to become one of your preferred sales and rental business, one of your preferred managing agents. And they said, yeah, sure, cool. And then after a couple of months, I thought, okay, well, are these guys going to give me some business now? And I went to them and I said, listen, this is what I want to do. And they said, okay, cool. Well, where's your offices? How many people work for you? What's happening? What's your turnover? What's this? What's that? And I kept doing that for about 3 or 4 years. And I kept sort of going back and going back and going back. And the staff, I managed to build up a number of staff, 2 or 3 staff, and then a staff member would leave. And when that staff member left, I almost felt like I was losing 30% of my business because there were only 3 of us. And then I'd get a new person, and then that new person would come and we'd build it up to about 4 or 5 staff, and then 3 staff members would leave at the same time, and you sort of build again, So I think it's also just about showing, obviously, I dress very professionally. I try to work hard. I just try to make as much noise as I possibly could. And I actually got under the skin of some really big players in the industry. And if they knew the size of my business, they wouldn't have let it get under their skin. But it did get under their skin, and they knew who I was.
So they actually found out.
Yeah. So I mean, when you phoning all of your owner list, and when you are putting boards out at every place, and when you are sort of illegally sort of sneaking into complexes and handing out flyers underneath every single door, which you're not allowed to do, and doing those things, and then, for example, the big agents in the agents in the bigger agencies stop doing deals, and then they start blaming Landsdowne, and they start saying, "Chish, it's Landsdowne have the owners list, and Landsdowne are going after our deals," and it's making some sort of quite wealthy, experienced businessmen unhappy with me. The truth is that we weren't actually doing any of those deals that the agents were talking about. They were using us as an excuse for their own not being able to rent it out. Yeah. But through that, I think. I don't know if it did me any favors, but it definitely let the market know that I was there and that I wasn't going away. I think sort of 3.5 years later, when SummerCon turned around and said, okay, we'll give you the opportunity with one complex. And then we took that opportunity, and then it sort of grew from there. So that's really how it works. I think that if you stay in an industry and you keep knocking on the door again and again and again, and any of the big boys drop the service level one time, or there's some staff turnover in the business, or the current owners of the business sell to a larger business, those are great opportunities for you to actually take those businesses on.
Mm-hmm. Did you always back yourself? Because this morning I got a message on the Daily Hustle Telegram group, which is a group I run for entrepreneurs to ask questions and what have you, and just connect with each other. Anyway, so I think it was Non-Klala or something like that. Anyway, I'll call it Non for short. But she was 19, or she is 19, right? And she's trying to get funded, and she isn't, quote, being taken seriously by investors. What advice do you have for her, or anyone that's young like you were back then, trying to hustle their way, get some clients? Obviously, regardless of your size, you're already mixing with the big boys straight out the bat, even if you don't want to take that seriously. It's true. It's a fact, right? I mean, what's your words of advice or wisdom around, if you're a young entrepreneur, how do you take yourself seriously, or how do you get people to take you seriously?
Yeah, well, I think that self-belief that you have has to be there 100% of the time. I mean, it's especially when you've got adversity in your business and you're getting knocked down again and again and again, you can get into this negative state of mind. And I think you just have to keep on. You have to keep on trying and keep on persevering and keep on following up with those people again and again and again and again, and never give up and actually bug them. And it's, it's a sort of, again, it's that old sort of estate agent thing, that old estate agent that phones you at 7:00 at night at your house, and you think, geez, I never want to be that person. In business, you need to be that person who follows up all the time. You need to make as much noise on platforms that don't actually cost a lot. Like the social media platforms that we use. Obviously, that stuff's being completely throttled now in terms of who views that. But still, you can be top of mind, and you just have to keep on knocking at the door. There's been some very dark moments over the past 12 years of my business, especially with cash flow pressure. You've got staff turnover, you've got cash flow pressure, and you sort of always worry about that. I think there's no pressure like cash flow pressure. And you just have to read any of we read the Shoe Dog book, with a Nike founder, and you see that 15 years into his business, in the early 80s, when he had a turnover of $15 million and he had different factories around the world, they were moving money around, rolling credit and struggling to pay staff up until that point. If you listen to Robbie Brosen, he's the founder of Nando's. If you listen to his story, even when he was winning national awards for advertising and he had 38 branches locally, he still didn't have cash flow to pay all of his staff. And those type of stories and seeing the successes of those stories get me through those dark times where I think, this is normal. This happens to massive businesses who have done really, really well.
You're preaching, man.
And the difference between me succeeding as an entrepreneur and not is the grit to say, I'm not going anywhere. You can throw anything at me and I'm not going anywhere. But with that comes inflammation, anxiety, and grey hairs. So you have to thread your eyebrows more if you if you've had some pressure.
Do you dye your hair? Just out of interest.
No, I don't.
It's really, Jeez, you do look young then, hey?
No, I think you've just been good to me again. I think you've been good to me.
Let's get our chalkboard up. Ask Mav if you can pass us, because we're about to head into the quote of the day. This one is from old Jono here. Jono, why don't you take us through this quote?
Okay, so this is a quote by H.D. Lawrence, and it's, I never saw a wild thing sorry for itself. A bird will fall frozen dead from a bough without feeling sorry for itself.
And what does that mean in English? Because that seems quite D.H. Lawrence wordy.
Yeah. it's
Thanks, man.
In terms of me quoting D.H. Lawrence, that's not actually where I heard the quote. I heard it from G.I. Jane. To be honest with the listeners.
Suck my dick.
Yeah. I was going to use that, but I thought maybe I should change it. That was my best quote of the
That was like the best line of that whole movie, dude.
It just really resonated with me. I was actually watching G.I. Jane on catch up the other day. I've recently had sort of 3 people resign in one of my businesses, and I'm sort of being brought back into the trenches, into sort of the operational running of the business. And I just suddenly thought, there's no point in being stuck in the self-pity of me thinking, oh, what am I going to do? This is so hectic. I'm going to have to find new staff. I'm a business owner. This is what happens. And if you look at animals, they never feel sorry for themselves. They don't have time for it. They're trying to survive. They're trying to do what's best for themselves. And I think a lot of people need to realize that too. They need to stop feeling sorry for themselves in the situation that they're in and actually do something about it.
I'm so glad you picked up on that, really, because last week was definitely a week about talking about happiness and expectations and acceptance of reality and stuff like that. And we did a video, like 20 videos this morning for us. But anyway, one of the videos I was talking about how much your happiness is actually in direct proportion to your ability to accept reality as it is. Yeah. Like in 2008, going back to your story, that's when the crunch happened. I just knew a lot of people. If there were 100 business owners that I knew, 50 lost their businesses during that time. It was a hard time. Like if you weren't, recession proof, like you lost your shit. And I guess if you could use that as an example to qualify like reality and acceptance and happiness and this whole idea around stop being this loser. You know what I mean? It's like a narrative that you jump onto. I don't know how you feel about it, but do you think like it's for some reason you jump onto the negative train quite easily and you get stuck there?
Yeah,
You know what I
no. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I mean, I can use 2008 as an example, but a better example for me, was, can we discuss the example sort of?
Go for it, dude.
Recently, because
you can turn it up there.
Yeah, because I think like a better example for me is recently in my business. I mean, I had a shareholder that I was busy buying out
at that time.
No. Now.
Oh, is this recent?
Yeah,
right.
Recently, and that's I think that's quite sort of resounded with me because a lot of the time I'm actually sitting there and feeling really sorry for myself because of circumstances in my business, and I think the ability to turn that off and to actually drive it into a positive direction makes the difference between a successful entrepreneur and not.
Power.
So I mean, recently in my business over the last year and a half, I mean, I had a shareholder in the property management business who I was busy buying out. And at the same time, I had a portfolio manager who'd worked for me for about 2 years. And she handed in a letter of resignation, which was fine. The moment she handed in the letter of resignation, I walked through into the manager's office and I had a look at her letter of employment. The restraint of trade was in place, which was fine. Said goodbye to her. We had a good relationship. Walked her downstairs, gave her a kiss goodbye, and she left. Cool. About 3 days later, a new company profile of hers was by mistake sent to a couple of our complexes in terms of our trustees, as well as her new company profile. So obviously I saw that and went through to the manager's office again just to see if the restraint of trade was in place again, just to check it. And she had actually taken the letter of employment out of the file. So she stole the letter of employment from the office.
Oh my God.
So not only that, but at that time I actually did a director search of who the shareholders of the new business was, and the shareholders were my previous shareholder, who I was busy buying out, the portfolio manager, and also Landsdowne's attorney at the time. So during this whole time, long story short, I met with I met with attorneys, I met with advocates, etc., and they said, listen, if you don't have that signed letter of employment, there's nothing you can do. Like, you really can't do anything. I said, cool. And anyway, I mean, I searched for 3 days, couldn't find anything. Long story short, the advocate said, listen, just go and get pay slips to prove that this lady was employed. I said, that's fine. I went and got some pay slips and there was a year missing. So I phoned my CI. I said, listen, for one of the years we're missing the pay slip. She says, I think I've got a couple of files in my garage that have old pay slips. Let me go and have a look. I said, please go and have a look. She opened the file and it was the original signed letter of employment.
Sure.
Long story short, we took that lady to urgent court. We won that with costs. Then they appealed it. We won the appeal with costs. Then they appealed that and took us to the Constitutional Court in Bloemfontein.
What?
We won that with costs. And all of this time, I was going, because she had obviously approached the full portfolio of 2,500 properties. So I was going and meeting these clients on a one-on-one basis and saying, ensuring continuity in the business, because there'd been no drop in service level whatsoever. And they had said, okay, great, you're the CEO of the business. I said, but we've never met you. We had a great relationship with the portfolio manager and the previous shareholder that you're busy buying out. And looking back on that, having a year and a half of losing contracts, number one. So it's like negativity, just losing contracts all the time, but not even from service level job. And then losing cash flow from outlaying money on litigation for about a year and a half. All of that coupled at the same time made me want, I watched those Return to the Wild or Into the Wild with Ben Fogel on BBC Knowledge, where guys go to Alaska, have a log cabin, and they just go away. I used to watch those and speak to my girlfriend at the time and say, listen, we need to get out of here. Like, I was under pressure.
Yeah.
But I think the difference, the difference between a business is, that's going to keep on going is that grit to say, I'm not going anywhere. And I will sell my house and put the money of my house into my business to cash flow this business. I will sell every investment I've got and put it into this business to make sure this business works. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
To your point, Robbie Bresen had that. Elon Musk is famous for spending his last cash on that last rocket for SpaceX.
Was a lot more cash than me, though.
Yeah, land cash, dude. Jeez. And then it was literally like breakdown. You know, it's on that 60 Minutes interview, it was like dreams were being crashed live on air. You know, it was pretty emotional just to watch that and go, fuck, you're not alone.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, one thing that I had a lot of support with is that my girlfriend at the time, who is an attorney, sort of actually became my attorney during this whole process, and having her support me during that time was enormous for me, and it really made the difference, I think, between me sort of winning or not. But it was difficult because she was living with me at the time. And for example, when you've had a hectic day and you come home and you have a bath with your wife and you sit down, or your girlfriend, and you sit down and you think like, let's just listen to some chilled music and not talk about business. She was my attorney, so when we got into the bath, we started talking about the case, and it put a lot of pressure on the relationship. But I think during the whole period, it showed me that she was definitely worth more than just being a girlfriend. So I took her to Botswana later that year. I dirtied a knee and I proposed to her. So we actually. Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Well done, dude.
Yeah, so we're getting married on the 1st of September.
Congrats, mate.
Yeah, and that was also, just to have a strong partner who can really support you during a difficult time also really helps.
Let's talk about that a bit more. I mean, what kind of support system do you think entrepreneurs need? I mean, for instance, have you had a mentor ever, like as part of this journey?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I've been a member of Entrepreneurs Organization for the last 3.5 years, and that's really helped me. That's been invaluable in actually changing the person that I am. Or the person that I was to the person that I'm trying to become, and it has given me the maturity and the support to change the things that I think caused the upset in the business.
Really?
So for me, it was more. I take accountability for the things that went wrong in my business because of my actions. You can blame it on anyone else, but I take accountability. And I think that if I was more of the person that I am now, maybe those relationships wouldn't have broken down in my business, and I'll certainly learn from them going forward. But it definitely makes a massive difference having a monthly meeting with 8 or 9 entrepreneurs who all have big businesses and can give me experience share about similar experiences that they've had, for example, with enforcing a restraint of trade or shareholders agreements or all
whatever
sorts of support.
Be, yeah.
So that's really, really helped me. Actually, Warren Ingram, who's on the Bruce Whitfield show, he was actually part of my forum. He's no longer an EO member, but he was a mentor. When he left EO, he was a mentor of mine for about a year. Yeah, and he's been really, really great. And I also see a business coach. So yeah, I'd like to just get. I'd like to.
Is that Spilly? Is it Spilly?
No. I've tried to stay away from Spilly because he knows every single other entrepreneurs organization member. You know what I mean? But I do know him; he's a great guy. Yeah.
He was my coach also.
Yeah. So it's that entrepreneurs organization has definitely helped me to become a better person, and then in turn make your business better. For me, I needed to sort out more. I needed to sort out internally what was going wrong before I could sort my business out. And now that I feel like that I'm sorting out what's going on inside, now I feel like my business
inside the business, right?
No,
or within you.
No. I feel like once I've sorted out what was wrong, that fire inside, that if it's channeled in the wrong place, you're an absolute mess.
Yeah.
I needed to channel that in a correct way. And then once I channeled that in a correct way, I feel like now I'll channel the right energy into my business, and my business will do well. But before then, I feel like I was single, I was running around, I was immature, and I had these ideas of what was important, and they were all wrong.
Most youngsters have those ideas, by the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Brad, for sure. He's got it all mixed up over there. He's laughing because it's true.
Although he puts up a blind really, really well.
He's graduated to blind keeper. Cool. Let's get on to the knockout punch segment. So this is your one top tip, dude, for entrepreneurs that you feel can change the game for them. What is that?
Okay, so I actually wrote this down because I want to get the wording right.
Go for it.
But it's highly successful people are highly accountable. Things don't happen to you, they happen because of you. And I think that's the most important thing. There's you are accountable for everything that happens in your life and everything that happens in your business. And the moment you get into and it goes with that self-pity quote, the moment you get in that negativity of, oh no, this happened to me, think about what you could have done differently for it not to happen to you, and what you'll do differently going forward so that it never happens to you again. And I think once you've got that, I think being accountable, everything that happens in your business is because of you. Everything. So just do
in
it.
your life, bro.
Yeah, in your life.
You know what I mean? Like, let's
sure.
take it to the real place of reality, man.
Yeah.
That's so true. I mean, most people always, I find, like, I was talking about this the other day about victim and victors,
Yeah.
And I think it's so true what you're saying, right? It's like life is always happening for you, even though it might not feel like it. Like, that difficult period was there for you to learn about something, which you've now learned about, you've processed, and you've channeled into a new direction. True or false?
True. 100%.
Yeah, cool. Ring it up, dude. Well done. That's the knockout punch. Thanks for that, bud. So, I mean, let's talk about scale. Like, how did you start to eventually scale? Like, or what have you learned about yourself in the process of scaling your business? Because obviously, being that solopreneur back in 2007 when you were in the garage, right, of your sister versus now where you're managing like thousands and thousands of properties all around the country. These are fundamentally different businesses. You, as CEO of Landsdowne, I guess, have had to become and grow into a different person in order to manage that scale, right?
Yeah.
True or false?
True.
Cool. So, I mean, what have you learned about yourself in that process of scaling Landsdowne?
So I think you need to realize what you're good at, and you need to do that. So, for example, with myself, I'm good at closing big deals. I'm good at meeting with the top CEO and sort of getting on really well with them, and they can see that I'm sort of a younger version of themselves, for example, and that I'm hungry and I'm driven and I want to drive a really, really good business and do a good service. It's one thing getting these big contracts, but there's another thing actually keeping them. And to keep them with scale, you need excellent operations, and operations is my negative point. I mean, I'm definitely not an operational guy. And the difficulty is that if when you've got scale and you start to get staff turnover and things like that, people want to speak to the owner of the business. And what I've learned from previously running the business when I was too far away, now that I'm involved with the business and I'm not too far away from my clients, if something operationally goes wrong, the client wants me there. And it's a thing that I have to do in the business, but it's, I need good operation people that I can trust and leave to do the operational stuff well. Because as a salesman and as an extroverted person, over time, you sort of get knocked down with negativity doing the operational things, where you just need a great operational guy who enjoys that and can put the correct structures in place. So a way that I grew my business is that property developers are definitely the correct guys to partner with. You can go sort of by, rental unit by rental unit or by complex by complex. But the truth is that if you partner with larger developers, I mean, you've got a Baldwin, for example, who are developing between 2,000 and 3,000 units a year. You have a Samacon that are developing, 300 to 400 units a year. You've got Calgary M3 who are developing 5,000 to 13,000 units a year. So you need to partner with the right guys. And there's one thing making a first impression and actually getting the business, and there's another thing retaining the business for years and years and years. Because a lot of these contracts, even though I've got a good passive income business, a lot of these contracts, even if you've got yearly or 2 yearly contracts, you can get notice within a month. If the service level drops at any time, there's, it's a competitive market and guys can just change. The nice thing is that there is scale. There's units everywhere, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of units in every area. So you can scale nicely, but you need to come with a product which is better, and operation needs to be good.
Mm-hmm. So do you ever see yourself leaving Landsdowne to scale? And I ask that poignantly because Rich Mulholland's left Missing Link in order for that business to scale. Yeah. I'm also a great founder. I don't think that I would be, I say that, but I don't think that I would be a great CEO of a business of 800 people, because I hate people management.
Yeah.
I don't like structure. Do you know what I'm saying? You actually just get on with it. True or false, Mav? And so you have to, again, like it's almost, you were saying just before we went on air that you want to build a monster, right? Do you ever foresee a scenario where you will have to remove yourself from the business in order for the thing to actually scale the way that you want it to?
Yeah, well, I would be if the correct decision was to remove me as the CEO, I don't know if I'm the right CEO for the business. I'm not a trained CEO. I'm not a guy with a CA and an MBA and has had that corporate experience. I faked it until I made it to a certain extent, and I'm a salesman and I'm great at growing a business. But am I a good CEO of the business? Am I a good mentor for my staff? Well, most probably not. So I think that if we could find, to answer your question, if it was better for the business, I would definitely do it. Because if I could, if I could spend 90 to 100% of my time on growing the business, on traveling to different property developers nationwide, going to different complexes, actually getting out there and getting the business, I could triple my business in a year. But on the flip side of that, I'm dealing with staff turnover, I'm dealing with shareholders disputes, I'm dealing with incorrectly worded restraints of trade, I'm dealing with staff morale, I'm dealing with all of that stuff that you have to have skills in terms of running a business. So to answer your question, I think yes, if stepping away from the business was the correct thing to do, I would most certainly do it. But I could still stay in the business in terms of growing it, or in terms of growing any business.
Yep.
I think whether I was selling property or whether I was selling an asset management product, it would make absolutely no difference. I believe I could go in and sell anything, yeah.
Great answer. And we are going to go and head on to the Injustice League. So, dude, this is where you're going to take this bat. And I know it was your birthday, so Mav.
This is what I'm most excited about. Warmed up my rotator cuffs before I...
Is that what you were doing back there?
I'm ready. No, but I won't hit it too hard, so I break the table.
So it was Jonathan's birthday, as I mentioned earlier. So congrats, mate, on your your birthday. And of course, I didn't have an opportunity to see you there. You can light that beautiful candle on that cupcake. So for those of us, or for those of you guys listening to the podcast, and you're not checking this online on YouTube or what have you, we have a cupcake to celebrate Jonathan's birthday. But first, what is the one injustice that you see in the world today that you really want to get out of your system?
I think, and again, it's to go on the same type of thing. I think specifically in this country, in a lot of countries, but specifically in South Africa at the moment, is lack of accountability. Nobody is accountable for their actions. The government's not accountable for their actions. They didn't do what they clearly did do, or people expect things for free. I think if we could get a society of people who are accountable for what they've done and what they're going to do, I think it would make a hell of a difference.
Couldn't agree with you more, dude. So with that in mind, I want you to imagine accountability or non-accountability right here in this cupcake. Okay. And I want you to smash that cupcake with a baseball bat. I'm ready. That's fine.
Sorry. There we go.
That was brilliant.
Sorry, I smashed it into your... No, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's only grass, dude. It's fine. Mav? You've got some homework, dude. You have to scrub this grass.
I'm so sorry.
That was amazing, dude.
I'd have preferred to have smashed the chocolate now that I think about
One dead cupcake.
Sorry.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's what we do here on the Matt Brown Show, is smash cupcakes. So we didn't actually only get you one, Mav, if you wouldn't mind.
Is this the one?
This is the one you can actually take home. Yeah, here you go, dude. Whoopsie. This is nice. Here you go, buddy.
A week before my wedding, a chocolate cupcake. Are you trying to... No excuses on the beach.
That is delicious.
Really,
so thanks very much, dude, for being on the show. Appreciate it. But I want to ask you a few more questions about your motivation.
Yeah.
So you've built a sizable business. By all accounts, you're successful. You dress fabulously. You love getting your hair and nails done and all that kind of rad shit.
Market's hard at the moment.
So, what motivates you to be successful as an entrepreneur? What's that thing?
I think it's ingrained in you. It's like either you're I'm going to use the line example again, because I really do compare myself to a line quite a lot. Like what makes a lion run after an impala when it's born without being taught? Like, it just sees a thing running and it runs after it. I've got sort of a fire inside. I can't really explain where it's from. And it can either be used for passion and ambition and to make yourself better as a person and to become a better person and a better husband and a richer man, or it's either channeled in the right way or it's channeled in the wrong way. And I've got I've got like a volcano of energy and ambition, and I think it's just there. It's a very difficult thing for me to explain, so it's it's that ambition, that drive, that thing that makes you go to gym, that thing that makes you go outside and play with your child, that drive. It's just there. I can't explain exactly what it is, but it's I've got it on tap.
Cool.
So it can either be used to sort of drink too much and be a dick, or it can be channeled to grow your business and be a better man.
This is why I stopped drinking a year ago. Do you know that?
Really?
Yeah, dude, not a drop, bro.
Amazing.
Honestly, it's literally changed everything.
Really, yeah?
Yeah. Let's talk about lifestyle choices. You've got this fire in you. You're still hungry to build this massive monster of a property management business. If for our entrepreneurs out there listening to us right now, what lifestyle choices do you feel the average guy needs to make in order to be successful? Because I find a lot of guys, when they start making some cash, it's being spent on the wrong things and what have you.
Well, I've done exactly that. Okay. I feel that even though I've got that sort of entrepreneurs organization backing, I made all of the same mistakes that every entrepreneur makes. And I've had the fancy cars and I've done that stuff. And I've recently sold all of that, and I'm actually Ubering around. The car I arrived to this afternoon is actually my wife's car.
So you sold the M3?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not such a cool entrepreneur anymore, but I'm a lot richer.
You could always just gift it to that guy. What's his name? Matt Brown or something like that.
You can't really gift it when there's a massive payment on the first of each month coming. You know what I mean? So I've enjoyed the ride. I've enjoyed the ride of running around and staying in cool hotels and being, having the means to be single and just have fun and act like a brass. But the truth is that for me, there's no long-term joy in that. And my entire perception in terms of even owning assets, even real estate assets. I've just taken my house in Morningside. I've sold the house because there's no capital appreciation in the market at the moment, and I've put the money into my business and I'm renting. Renting would be a swear word back in the day, and I would never do it. I've been Ubering for about 3 months. I'm starting to get a little bit bored of the Ubering now.
It sucks being driven around in a Toyota. What is that one? What's the one you in? Corolla. That's it.
Toyota Corolla. Yeah, look.
Mav gets driven around in an Uber.
Great. I think it's just a whole. It's just a whole mind change about what's important and what's not.
I love that, dude, because I'm actually going through that same process now. I'm actually trying to simplify, not overcomplicate. Do you know what I mean? Because I just think there's a lot of power in simplicity.
Yeah. So with the car thing, I've loved cars and I've always had really, really cool cars. When I started my business, I had a nice car, but and then I used to use my dad's old 3 Series with the hoodie and put the boards up, but it's just like, it's false. It's false. I haven't bought that car cash. It's just not real. And it's, I'd prefer to sort of, even now I'm having a look at cars now and I'm thinking like I had a look at Polos. I would never buy a Polo. Never.
Most hijacked car in the country.
Yeah. But even if it wasn't, I would never buy a Polo. It's just not for me. And I've always liked cars and it's always been so important for me. And then when I had a look at the new Polos, they're like 300 grand. And I thought to myself, I'm not buying a Polo for 300 grand. That's ridiculous. And I walked out of there like, geez, these Polos are a ripoff. I had an M3 and an Aston Martin at the same time. And now I'm walking out with on the Polo and being this ridiculous 300 grand. But the point is that it's just I honestly want to. I've changed. So I've sold my house, put my money in the business I'm renting. I have offices which I own, and it burned me to own these offices over the years. They nearly paid off cash, and it's more just a cool thing to say, I own my office block. Has it actually appreciated? Is it a good investment? The rates and taxes and the levies kill me. I want to sell my office. I want to put the cash in my business. I want to rent my offices. I want to buy a little car for 100 grand cash, and I want to drive it so it costs me nothing, and I want to be more low key. And that's completely not what I was. I was I was socially everywhere, social media. I'm just really done with it actually. And it's just a thing of growing up, a thing of what's important, a thing of finding the right woman, a thing of EO, of constantly trying to make yourself better, all of those things. You know?
So if you could get into a time machine and go back to 2007, right, when you're in that garage, and give yourself one piece of advice, and listen, Jonathan, 27-year-old Jonathan Kohler, do this thing. Like, what is that thing?
It's a tough question. I don't know if I would have done anything different.
Really?
I think I would have kept it exactly the same because I had a big jaw along the way, and I had some really crazy stories, which on a different talk show I could let you know about those.
It's an open book here, buddy.
Or I mean, you friends with me on Facebook. Just go back to 2007, 2008, and see those like kitsch pictures I used to post on online. But I think maybe having all of my capital tied up in actually owning my office park and having because I found that. We're not a property owning business, we're a property management business. And I think to have, if I look at it now, I would rather have 7 or 8 million rand as cash flow in my business. Then when you're losing some contracts and you have some litigation costs, but you've got you've got a year's fees sitting in the bank. So if the cash flow stopped today, you didn't get another rand. For a year, it would run itself completely smoothly. Believe you me, I would have had a lot less sleepless nights. So I think maybe that. But apart from that, I think, I've learned some lessons from it. I had an absolute jaw along the way. I sowed my wild oats, and it's sort of made me the person I am today, I guess.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love it. So let's take some questions from the audience. Here you go, Mev.
So, Janine's asking, what are the 3 things you need to consider before buying a home?
Before buying a home. Okay, so I would have a look at what the difference is between the rental amount and the actual bond repayment. So, for example, if I give her an example of a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom property, she wants to buy a first house, a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom ground floor unit in Fourways, for example, would get about 7,000 rand a month rent, but you could buy it for probably about 720,000. So the bond repayment and the rental amount is very, very close. You'd have to take your levies into consideration. A levy on a 1-bed would be about 1,000 rand, and rates and taxes about 350 rand. Actually, exactly those figures. So in that circumstance, I would prefer possibly buying, because if you bought it in an area like Fourways where there's a whole redevelopment going on there, Fourways Mall, Stain City, 270 million rand of adjacent road infrastructure, all of that type of thing, it will probably over a 10-year period have quite good capital appreciation. However, if you are looking at buying a 6 million rand cluster in Morningside, the 6 million rand cluster in Morningside is going to cost, a bond repayment is going to be about 60,000 rand a month. Your levies are probably going to be about 5,000. Your rates are going to be about 5,000. So it's costing you 70,000 rand a month. And there's little to zero capital appreciation in that market. So why would you want your borrowing ability in an asset that's not appreciating? And then you could probably rent that property for about 25,000 rand a month in this market. So yes, you're throwing away the 25,000 rand to rent, but the point is you're renting at more than half that you could actually buy it for. And if it's not appreciating, there's no point in owning. So I think that's the most important thing when buying, is to see if the rental return, bond repayment are very, very close. Then maybe buy if it's in a good area. Otherwise, I would rent. In this market, renting, I think, is the best thing to do.
So how flat do you think South African property market's going to remain? Because at the moment it sucks.
Yeah.
If anything, it's drawing back. So
I've recently sold my house in Morningside. I sold it and got, I'd say, a purchase price that was lower than one we sold in the same complex 4 or 5 years ago. So I think that if you want to sell in this market, you need to have a realistic selling price, and then you will sell. And if you're looking to buy, it's definitely a buyer's market. But I think the thing is politically, people are saying, am I going to drop 6 million rand? If you're buying cash, am I going to put 6 million rand in a non-appreciating asset in a country where we don't know what's exactly happening with land ownership? Look, I mean, it's not really threatening residential property, but I think people are apprehensive about where the rand's going and what they're doing. So they would rather borrow 6 million rand to invest in properties offshore in pounds and rent here rather than the other way. So when it's going to come right, look, I mean, property cycles go up and down. We think it will come right. When will it come right? Not 100% sure.
What is your take on technology in property, and do you think bots will take over the sales process? That's from Mohammed.
I think technology definitely plays a big role, but it's happened before. I mean, if you have a look at Lead Home, for example, they've got their flat rate. At the end of the day, you're still selling your home yourself. And if you have a look at private property, they try to take the agent out years and years ago, but the truth is that it's difficult to actually sell a home. And you can negotiate your agent down in terms of but I think taking the estate agent or the property manager out of property altogether, I don't think it will happen. It may take certain functions out, just like the legal profession, the legal apps and their medical apps that you can do. But if you're really, really sick, you're going to go to a specialist, and you want your specialist to give you blood tests personally. So I do think that it plays a big role, and we're definitely looking into it all the time, how to disrupt the property market. Not as sure exactly how to do that now, but specifically with the property management. I mean, you've got portfolio managers and estate managers that are managing thousands of properties, and an app and we do use apps, that you can go into and you can get your body corporate rules and your movement control forms and all of those things at the touch of a button. But actually getting people to use the app is very, very difficult. So you need the technology, but you need to sell the technology. There were lots of WhatsApps before WhatsApp. But you need to go out there just like a business and sell the technology and become the used technology. So I'd say it's less about the technology and it's more about having good technology, sure, but more than that, you can have average technology, but you have to sell it like a business. And if you sell it and it becomes the main business, then you've got a business. So, if that answers you.
This is from Helena. She's asking, do you manage any holiday homes? And then the follow-up question to that is it more difficult to manage a holiday home or an estate property with 200 flats?
It's a difficult question. Holiday homes we don't really do. I would recommend using sort of like an Airbnb if you're using a holiday home. I mean, I've rented out properties over the December period in Plettenberg Bay, for example, and it's just we would prefer to manage larger estates. Larger estates, we've got with 200 units, we've got one monthly management meeting. We've got the billing at a specific time each month. We have the collections, but we've got our systems that really take care of it. We've got the portfolio manager, which takes care of the trustees' expectations. We like long-term rentals. You can definitely get higher yields with your Airbnbs, or your short-term rentals, your Capital Hotel Group, for example, do that very, very well. But I prefer placing a tenant and doing the check-in inspection once every 12 months, not once every 3 days.
Dude, do you know Kat Wolf?
No.
From Office Space Online?
Okay, no, I don't know.
I must connect you to her. She's one of our clients.
Okay.
So doing a whole bunch of personal branding stuff for her. She just launched her Property Wolf show. I think you'd be an amazing guest.
I'd love to be a guest.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Connect you, yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah,
cool. So, Jono, last question for you, bud.
Yeah.
Why do you do what you do? Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
It's a difficult question. I think for me, sort of being a success in life, or sort of having that ambition and making that happen. I certainly don't wake up in the morning and say, "I'm going to manage property today." Woohoo! And that doesn't say that I don't, that I'm not passionate about my business or about what my business does, but there's certain problems in the property industry that need to be addressed, like an estate. So estate management is probably our most difficult niche of our business, which is an estate manager walking around a site on a day-to-day basis, breach of body corporate rules, late night trustees meetings, sending of minutes, management of service provider. It's probably our most difficult job that we do, but it's a job that nobody wants to do, and for good reason, but there's an opportunity there. So I think I get up, because I want to be a success. I want to build a massive business that I can look back at one day and say, I'm really, really proud of this business. And I think that's why I do it. I'm not one of those guys. I was like, I left school and just property was my passion. I love property. I mean, I love being successful in property, but I'd love being successful in anything. I think that I think when you get better at doing something, when you get more knowledgeable about a specific thing, you become more passionate about it, and you can talk about it for longer, and you come across as that, but I mean, it's not, I'm not passionate about property. I understand property. I understand exactly how to make money from it. I understand how it appreciates, what returns you can get, how do you sell it, the costs involved. I mean, I know everything about residential property, so I've got a bouquet of products which help people with that. But I think getting up in the morning is just, I just want to be a success. I want to be respected. I want to build a monster. That's just that ambition and that drive. I just want to do that.
Dude, well, I wish you all the very best as you continue to build that monster, and best of luck for the wedding, dude.
Thanks.
Thanks
very
amazing,
much.
bro.
Thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate
Awesome,
it.
dude. Awesome. Guys, thanks for checking in. If you haven't done so, please join the Daily Hustle Telegram group, where we'll be giving out some more rad content from the Matt Brown Show. Jono, thanks, bud.
Thanks, Matt.